気分は最高だけどびっくり世界がどう
Welcome to the Super Sentai Brothers. This is episode 21 of The Spy Who Loved Megaranger, the internet's best and only podcast dedicated to Denji Sentai Megaranger. Every week we watch an episode of the show and we share our thoughts with you, the listener. My name is Matt Jay. With me as always is my co-host and brother Dave. Dave, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Matt. Sorry, caught me in the middle of a weird yawn there. So
Cool. Great energy to start the show. High energy
to start
high
the show.
octane. Coming at ya.
Now listen, Matt, we are many things. I'm many things, both as I think a podcaster and as an individual human being. But I don't think high octane would be one of the.
Rev the engines. It's
Would be-
happening.
would be
It's all
one of the
happening now.
would be one of
We're coming at you now. Traffic on the twos.
Oh,
Come on,
man.
big dog. What do we got today?
Man, I hate morning radio so much. Oh,
Yeah, it's not
gosh.
And now it's time for Megaranger in the morning.
Megaranger in the morning
With your hosts, Moonshine Matty Jay and the Big Dog.
I only hope that doing this goofball podcast is in some way like a sort of like a From Hell's
Saving
Heart I
some
stab
people
at
from
thee.
normal radio.
Right. Like you could listen to us be knuckleheads, but at least you don't have to listen to like Goober and the Bandit. No. I've actually listened to Goober and the Bandit.
Well, the problem is that the Bandit, I think, is forever taken, right?
Man, I don't know.
Because
Maybe,
of
maybe it's an
Smokey
old
Ann.
one and then it's cycled out, probably. Maybe the Bandit cycled out.
The Smokey and the Bandit never cycles out, Dave.
Oh, I totally
cycle their
spaced.
engines.
Oh, jeez. Can we please do anything with this?
Sure. Well, folks, it's a beautiful, crisp fall evening.
See,
And,
this is where
we're
I'm
just
at.
Here to,
This is
we're
my
just
energy.
Here to chill out, and we're going to enjoy going through the ins and the outs of episode 21 of Denji Sentai Megaranger. It's called Now's the Time, the life-threatening superfusion. And yes,
Now.
that might be the most peaceful way I've ever said the words life-threatening.
Now, twice a year, we do come to you for your support. And we've just gotten word that generous...
Oh, a generous person is offered. They're going to match every donation.
They're gonna match every
up to
donation.
$5,000. Now that only is good up until the 9 o'clock hour. So we've got another 45 minutes here, and we really need you all to come out and support us all. If you can please dial the number on your screen. There's no screen. There is a screen. I assume you have a phone.
I love the eternal, like the Hope Springs Eternal. Like, we need to raise $15,000 and we have 30 seconds left in this hour. So if you guys could just call you, and like their intonation never changes. They could be like, we need $1 million in the next 3 seconds or us and all of our loved ones will die. And I'm absolutely confident they would deliver it the exact same way.
You know, I've got a friend who actually works at the local NPR affiliate.
Yeah,
And when he
I met that
started
dude.
working there as like a guy who works the boards, and he does more there now. He's been there for years. But I talked to him about it. He's like, oh yeah, like when I first started being a guy who would like, you know, just do like weather and traffic stuff, not traffic, I guess, but you know, like interstitial bits on the local show in the mornings, like they would come to me afterwards and be like, okay, that was good, but like, here is how you talk to make it sound more NPR.
Nice. There's like an NPR
And I'll tell you
voice
what,
style
like-
guide. I love it.
Yeah, and like, I'll tell you what, he still works there, and I hear him on the radio now, I'm like, oh, he's got it. He nailed it. There it is.
He nailed it. He got.
Anyway, Dave,
Speaking
speaking
of-
of nailing it, speaking of where
Oh.
it is, shining in the heavens, as always, Dave, there are 5 stars. It's the name of our officially award-winning opening segment, and I would like you, if possible, to tell me what our first star of the week is.
Man, it is possible, and I'm delighted to tell you our first star of the week. It's Bun Vulcan. Welcome to Bun Vulcan. So, Matt, what do you have for Bun Vulcan?
Well, Dave, so, as you know, you have been making croissants.
I have been making croissants.
And I have been interested in sort of dipping my toe in that. But there's
That's
a lot
very
to
interesting.
it, right? Like, it's not just, there's a lot more to it than just making bread, right? There's more
yes.
ingredients, there's more
Yeah.
steps. Which is not to downplay the complexity of bread making, but that's like making puff pastry at home is like a special thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like croissants is like, sort of that and a half.
Yeah, that's
So
true. It is yeasted, not technically puff pastry. Go ahead.
My Bun Vulcan this week is that I have officially acquired all of the ingredients to make croissants.
That's a big step, Matt. You need some special stuff.
I got especially fatty butter. I got all
what'd
this
you go
stuff.
with?
I got a rolling pin. It's like a Amish butter. It's called like Minerva or something. Miranda, maybe.
Oh, okay.
It's like 5% fat.
Oh, that's a high butterfat content,
butter-
Matt. That's high quality.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was aiming for. Unsalted, high butterfat percentage.
That's what you need.
And the only way you can get it is as like the log. So now I've just got like this hunk of butter sitting in my fridge.
You'll
which is
find
fine. I'll imagine.
No. You'll find you go through it remarkably quickly.
Well, if I can figure out how to make these things, sure I will. Like that's the whole thing with those things is like they're amazingly a butter delivery system.
Yeah, it is. It is very butter dependent. It is high volume butter. I actually have. This is also my Bun Vulcan this week. Is I could have sort of like stepped away from croissant for a while just because I was like, oh, I'm making a lot of these. Let me try something else, and I'm kind of looping back in. And here is the biggest problem that I am having is that I am really having trouble regulating the temperature of my butter because if the butter is too warm, and it's really friggin' tricky because if the butter is too warm, it seeps out the seams or just kind of like mashes into the dough. But if it's too cold, the butter cracks. And if the butter cracks, what you end up with is you don't get those like really big air pockets, like that really beautiful honeycomb. You get like really small ones because it's these little pieces of butter that are evaporating. And you want the big sheets, and that's how you get that sort of like classic croissant honeycomb. And I just like for the life of me, I have followed every direction I can figure out that I can find, like different methods, and I am having so much trouble hitting that sweet spot. And it's like it's actually really frustrating. Like they still taste very nice.
You were making them very successfully, like in the summertime.
Yeah, no. This is a problem. Even my most successful ones, I have still had a problem. This has been like my consistent problem. I still have not like gotten the feel for it to be right. And like, listen, there's still like poofy, delicious, crunchy, butter pastries. It's not like anyone's suffering eating them, but they're not like the thing. Like just how you want it to be, and it's driving me like low-key crazy. Like it's really driving me nuts.
So what I realized is that I got all of this stuff, and I read you were kind enough to send me over the recipe that you've been using, and I read it like 10 times, and I looked at all my ingredients, and I looked at my equipment, and I pulled out my new rolling pin, and I put like the little silicone rings on either side that I got, like
nice.
the spacers, to make sure that I was doing like level rolling sheets. And then I was like, this is very intimidating, and I just am going to go play video games for a while instead. I was like, man, I feel like there's something that's lacking. I feel like there's one thing that's really going to like put me over the top. I just need to spend money to feel good about doing this, which is something that I've been dealing with all year, frankly. Because, like if you can't go anything or do anything interesting, you just want to buy things for your kitchen instead. You know how it is.
Yeah, I dig it.
Anyway,
I dig it. You're
so
side questing is what you're doing.
Yeah. Yes, Dave, that is exactly what I'm doing. I'm grinding out some levels so that when I go back to face the boss, I will have leveled up sufficiently.
Yeah.
And the side
Classic
quest that I have
strategy.
gone on now is that I have purchased and ordered, although not yet received, a 6-quart bowl lift KitchenAid stand mixer.
Dude, that's
Which is
that's the
entirely
Cadillac.
too much for my needs.
Now, listen, we talked about this, and the price differential. Here's the thing: this is a very much an in for a penny, in for a pound situation. The price differential between like the Cadillac version and like the fine version is like fairly minor. So if you're already going to get the fine version, just spring for the Mac Daddy KitchenAid. You're not going to miss that money in a year, and you'll have the KitchenAid for life.
Yeah. Now here I think is the problem, Dave, is that I feel like based on the size of this KitchenAid and the size of my kitchen, I'm about to be hitting some real Jafar problems. Which is
you
that
might
I will
have a problem,
like
yes.
tremendous ultimate power with an itty bitty living space, which is a really good Aladdin joke.
It is really good. That is a concern.
you.
I am confident, Matt, that you will figure it out.
I'll just throw some more kitchen junk in my basement to get rid of it.
Is our second star of the week.
Dave, second star of the week is, I know we've talked about this semi-recently, and I don't have, like, more interesting things to say about it, but we've been continuing to play our long-running Mage game, and Dave, Mage is just really good, and I want to talk about it.
It is really good.
But no one
say,
will care to hear me talk about it. And I don't know how I'm going to do this star, because I feel like this star is just me talking about how no one wants to hear me talk about Mage, and I don't know how to make that interesting. Like, okay, Dave, I was in the shower this morning thinking about Mage, as I do basically every day that I try to not think about the election when I'm in the shower.
Yeah, that's
Those
huge.
are kind
That's
of
a really
my
big...
battling shower thoughts.
No, I got it.
And so I succeeded this morning. So I was thinking about Mage in the shower, and I was like, man, the thing about the road to ascension is that you don't climb the mountain because you want to get to the peak of the mountain. You climb the mountain because you want to get to the sky. And then I thought about that. I'm like, man, that's a great Mage thought. And then I thought about telling that thought to anybody who didn't play Mage. Like, they would think I was an insane idiot who had read a self-help book one time. But, like, in the context of Mage, it works. It also sounds like a weird, like, man, you're not the weather, you're the sky. Like, it sounds like that, but in Mage, man, don't climb to get to the peak, climb to get to the sky. It's very good if you think about it, and you know what I'm talking about, which you probably don't.
You do. Here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to say is I actually think there's a lot more. I'm going to give you a lot more credit. I think there's a lot more there than you were kind of giving shrift to, because this, I think, is the great thing about Mage. Listen, I think the great thing about role-playing games in general is that it is beyond the fact that they're fun, right? Like, lots of things are fun, but I do think that there is some kind of enduring value in playing role-playing games, and what I think that value is it's a place for you to psychologically explore things in a kind of controlled and safe environment. But the thing that I think is really great about Mage is that it is not only a place to explore things sort of psychologically, if you are really engaging with the game, I think it is a really cool way. It's a really valuable thought training tool. Because of the structure,
I agree with you.
Yeah, I think because of the structure of Mage, it really makes you, it sort of forces you, if you kind of play the game long enough and really engage with it, it really forces you to engage with your own preconceived notions. And why do you think the things that you think? It forces you to deal with your own unknown knowns, things that you sort of think without realizing that you think them. And that's an enormously valuable thing, and I think it's actually really cool. By
the way, the reason for this, by the way, if you have not played Mage, is that the whole overarching thing about Mage is it is a game about wizards versus scientists, but it is more a game about what is the nature of reality and how do you transcend it.
Yeah, and like
Right.
how do you understand it and like achieve enlightenment? Yeah, I think everything else it's really Enlightenment, the role playing game. Everything else I think is
Right,
kind
but
of
there's
just
a
window
lot
dressing.
of katanas in it.
There's so many katanas. And everything else is sort of window dressing. But I so for example, like the last session we played, I had like achieved this thing. My character was able to do this thing mechanically, and I had sort of like thrown around the idea of doing it in a kind of a casual way. If you play mage, I have 1 dot in every sphere, and so I was using sensory magic at like 1 dot spheres, but like all at the same time. It was real bonkers. And so I like had done it, and then like as part of the story that we're telling, I really engaged with it in like a super intense way. And the realization that I had as part of that was like, oh, this was a thing that I was capable of, that I had a philosophy about, or I had like a theory about, and that I could technically do, but I had not really engaged in the full reality of my own capability, and like where my philosophy, my sort of like theoretical philosophy really hit the road as far as reality goes. And I was like, that's a really good metaphor for just like life in general. So I think mage has that value. And I think you're right, Matt. You do. You climb the mountain to reach the sky, not to reach the summit of the mountain. Great job.
Thanks, Dave. What's our 3rd star of the week?
So our 3rd star of the week, Matt, is that I am up at Beth's. I mean, it's my family also, just like my extended family. I think I've mentioned this before, but that Beth's family has a farm in kind of upstate New York that her grandparents bought in like the early 90s or late 80s or something like that. And we were
for the
like,
purposes
well,
of this story, it's functionally identical.
yeah, it's just material. So it's for a long time there were people that kind of like lived here more or less, like kind of off and on. But right now nobody lives here, and there's somebody who lives close and is a caretaker, so it's in good condition and everything. And we're like, well, I work remotely, and Beth has some part-time work, and she works remotely. We could just go to the farm for a week, and that would be fine. And it's been extremely good, actually. We're just like way out in the country. We're like half an hour from a town, so like we could get pick up pizza, so that was great. But like we're just out in the country, and there's nobody out here. And the kids are now old enough that they could just kind of like run around outside. And there's a playroom, and they could just go to the playroom and play. And so we just kind of been like chill, living that like chill country life. And
it doesn't sound bad. Honestly, I'm a city boy.
I am a city boy, but
the thing is, in 2020, all of the great stuff about a city is like not really accessible to you.
You can't get to that stuff. I'm basically
in these
living on a farm.
unprecedented times, Dave.
In my own house. Yeah, so now I'm just out on a farm, in a real farm, and there's like an apple tree. I just walked outside and took an apple off a tree, Matt, and then I ate it with my mouth.
That's weird.
I know, right?
I guess it's not
rad.
weird if you live near apple trees, but...
Yeah, but it is weird for me because I don't. So yeah, we've just been like chilling out here. We were going to go home tomorrow, and I was like, you know what? What if we just don't, though? What if we just stay for an extra few days? Because why not? Like, there's literally no reason. I mean, like, aside from the fact that... Yeah, like, aside from the fact that, like, someone's watching my cat... Like, beyond that, like, I can just be here. So that's pretty wild, Matt. It's real good. And if you happen to have married into someone who had like a rich grandfather that bought a farm in like the 80s, I would definitely recommend it if you were on the fence.
Cool. I will keep that, Dave, in mind.
Matt, what is our 4th star of the week?
Dave, 4th star of the week is that I put a picture of this on Twitter the other day, but a couple of days ago, I woke up and I realized that I had like a Zoom call meeting at 9 a.m. and I realized
just
this while I was in
inconsiderate.
bed, looking at my emails and I have an Outlook app on my phone, and I was looking through my schedule for the day and checking my morning emails and making sure that nothing in my work universe was like on fire. And then I swiped over to my meetings. I was like, oh, I have a meeting in 2 minutes, and I have to be on camera. So I like sprang out of bed. My desk is in my bedroom. I didn't have to go far. I sprang out of bed, turned on my computer, flipped on the camera, and threw on the closest clothes available, which were a Rowdy Roddy Piper Ringer t-shirt.
Great job.
A red knit cap to cover my like weird bed hair, and a red like and black plaid flannel shirt. And I threw them on. I'm like, yes, okay, I'm in this meeting. We're talking about work. It is somehow even less interesting than the least interesting thing I could bring up here. So I won't go into the details of the meeting. But I realized afterwards when I caught myself in the mirror, I'm like, oh, I have like accidentally cosplayed like 1993, right?
Listen, Matt, here's
Like,
what I'm going to say. The old phrase, luck is just preparation meeting opportunity. And I think that's the situation you found yourself in. You were prepared.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree, Dave. And I so enjoyed it. I was like, I'm just going to roll with this, actually. Like, I'm going to revel in the 90s a little bit. And so I just popped open.
A simpler time.
Yeah. Flawed
not
in its
really.
own ways, but...
Yeah. I think just my life was simpler.
My life was so much simpler. And so I popped open the Apple Music app. I'm like, dude, let's just listen to some 90s stuff. So I spent the day listening to like the alternative 1996 hits playlist. Totally great. And then you know what I shifted to the next day, Dave? Because I decided I wanted to sort of stick with it for a few days. It put me in a good zone because it's like the same music that was on the radio when I was doing homework after school when I was in high school, right?
Oh, yeah, dude. As soon as we started having this conversation, I put on Standing Outside a Broken Phone Booth with Money in my hand, like low in the background, so I can still obviously hear you, but I'm just vibing.
Bend downhearted, baby.
Yeah, just vibing right now, Matt.
Dude, I found a playlist that is just, it is not the Lilith Fair albums, which are all live albums. It is a Lilith Fair playlist, which is just a playlist of people who were at or inspired by Lilith Fair.
Quality.
And I've just been listening to that for like 2 days straight. And Dave, it's so good. It's so good. You want to feel good this autumn? Listen to some Natalie Merchant.
I do
Listen
like
to
Natalie
10,000
Merchant.
Maniacs.
I also like 10,000 Maniacs.
You think of Sarah McLachlan as the lady from the Sad Animal commercial? But go back and actually listen to Sarah McLachlan. I'm talking to the listener in that moment. Cause we got probably a slightly younger audience base. But man, like if you never like listened to Sarah McLachlan, listen to Sarah McLachlan. Jagged Little Pill holds up. I've shifted now to Alanis Morissette, but I'm just bouncing around what was in this playlist. Like,
no, you know who I really like, Matt?
Do it,
Dido.
I was just gonna say Dido.
I'm a Dido fan. Both the musician and the legendary Queen of Carthage.
Both great. Both great. Anyway, folks, do yourself a huge, just enormous favor and look up a Lilith Fair playlist and just vibe. Just go for it. You're going to thank yourself and me, but mostly yourself and Lilith Fair.
And mostly Matt, though.
I mean, listen, I'm involved. Anyway, Dave, what is our fifth and final star of the week?
Actually, Matt, this is a really excellent segue because speaking of both music I've been enjoying and cities of antiquity, I have also been listening to an album because, listen, I am with you on these like just these very good vibes about this 90s playlist, but if I'm working, I can vibe too hard. So I need to find something that's like a little bit back from that. So what I have been listening to while I'm doing my like asynchronous classwork is an album called The Lost Voices of the Hagia Sophia.
Ooh, so like the 390s.
Yeah. Okay,
I don't
so
know. I don't remember when the Hagia Sophia was built.
So here's what this is. So the Hagia Sophia is a cathedral / mosque. It's kind of changed hands a number of times, and right now it is a museum. So actually, recently it has been I'm not sure what the word is, but they are using it as an active mosque again, at least like in part. So anyways, here is what is amazing. Here's what's super amazing about this album. Obviously, like I shouldn't say obviously, maybe this isn't a thing that people dig if you are not into listening to like Byzantine chant music. But I am.
If you're some sort of weirdo.
Some sort of weirdo who doesn't like Byzantine Orthodox chant. Anyways, here is what somebody did. They got like a computer scientist and like an audio engineer, acoustic engineer expert. And here's what they did. They got permission to go into the Hagia Sophia and like the dead of night. Right? Just like, and this is only important because there's nobody else there. And they put microphones right next, like super sensitive microphones right next to each ear. Okay? And then she walked in and she popped a balloon. And it created this, like a balloon popping noise. And it, of course, echoes off of the interior of the Hagia Sophia. And using the data from the microphones on each ear, what they effectively did was make like a Hagia Sophia acoustic filter. So you can record something.
Okay.
So you can record something, and then you run it through the filter, and
it sounds like it's echoing through the Hagia Sophia?
Yes. And
okay.
so,
now,
like,
what's crazy about this is that as you're describing, I'm like, oh, they pulled a Brian May. Because this is exactly what Brian May did for the stomp stomp clap sounds in We Will Rock You. I mean, not exactly. Like, he wasn't...
Wait, what?
Did you not know this? Do you know how the stomp stomp clap sound like they're echoing off of walls and stuff?
Did he just go to a cathedral? No, I didn't know this. Did he just go to a cathedral?
Okay, so he didn't go to a cathedral and like pop a balloon because this was, way back in the day.
Yeah.
But Brian May has a PhD in astrophysics. He's like a very smart guy. And so he like did math to figure out like what sort of delay and stuff you would have to do on the sound to make it sound as though it is reverberating in a huge, huge room. But really, it was just like microphones next to them jumping up and down on planks of wood.
And then they just layered it. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, then they just like figured out how to loop it.
Yeah, so that is precisely what they did. So there's this album called Lost Voices of the Hagia Sophia, and it is a like Byzantine chant choir from like the West Coast somewhere that's like pretty well known, and they had them do a whole album. The
Bosphorus? This is a great Constantinople joke.
No, West Coast America.
No, it's Istanbul now. The four lads have taught us this.
So, yeah, and they just did this album, and then they ran it through this filter so you can listen to it, and it sounds as though you are standing in the midst of like this ancient cathedral. It's extremely rad and very chill, and it's great background music to grade papers by.
Cool, man.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, it's just extremely rad.
I love rad things, Dave, and that's great. Because we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and talk about a very rad episode of Denji Sentai Megaranger. It is called Now's the Time, the Life-Threatening Superfusion. And we will talk about it when we come right back. Okay, welcome back. So, we have just finished watching episode 21 of Denji Sentai Megaranger. It is called Now's the Time, the Life-Threatening Superfusion. It was written by Junki Takagami. Its original air date was July 6th, 1997. Of course, if you wanted to have watched it, you could have done so. I guess you could do so still. Either with the DVDs or at shellfactory.tv. Dave, good app.
Yeah, it is a good app. I would just briefly diverge. I gotta say, I deeply appreciate the public service that Shout Factory provides by putting all this stuff on their website, I have no idea how Shout Factory makes money.
I mean, they do sell
I know
the
that they
DVDs.
do.
I've got like 5 sets of them.
Well, like, they don't even show ads at the beginning of it. Like, these people are amazing. Like, they're just out there loving life, giving you Sentai for free. You can pay them for it, and that would be great. But, yeah, it's all just out there. It's rad. Anyways, sorry, please continue.
Oh, so this episode starts off with sort of a recap of where we have been in the last few episodes. So Guy-Rail shows, and which is probably good for us to go through because there's
been a lot.
Well, also because we didn't have an episode last week. So if you have not been paying super close attention, and it's been a couple of weeks since you have heard it, if you're listening to these as they're coming out, maybe we can give you a little bit of an update. So Guy-Rail, he's here. He's the new guy.
Yes.
He's the new, Nezare lieutenant. He's been sent in from King Javius the First of his name, who has been sent in to, jumpstart a sort of stagnated Dr. Hinelar operation, right?
Yeah, it's not super clear who kind of is in charge. It did at first seem like when Guy-Rail showed up that he was like the new boss on the block, but now that maybe is not quite the case.
Guy-Rail, this is in my notes for a few minutes into the episode. Guy-Rail definitely acts as though he is the guy who is here and is now the boss, but has not yet told the old boss that the old boss is not the boss anymore.
Okay, yes.
Did that ever happen to you when you were working at a restaurant? This definitely happened to me when I worked at Borders once, where a lady showed up and was like, "Oh yeah, I'm here to help you with inventory this weekend." And then 2 weeks later, we found out that person was our new boss.
That's a weird strategy.
Boy, it was super
coming
weird.
in.
But Guy-Rail definitely gives me Cynthia vibes. Her name was Cynthia.
I was going to say, thank you for that very specific piece of information.
He seems slightly less evil.
Yeah. So, wow. Hard cut there on Cynthia, man.
Well.
So, yeah. And then last week, we got a new giant robot. And the new giant robot is called Delta Mega. And the interesting thing about Delta Mega is that it's a little bit of a Tetra Boy, or what was the wheel one from O-Ranger?
Oh. Tackle Boy?
Tackle Boy. Maybe it was, Tackle Boy. So he's sort of like a Tetra Boy, Tackle Boy situation where you don't pilot Delta Mega. He's autonomous, and you can call him in to fight with you. That is a little bit odd. I feel like Delta Boy would have... No, Delta Mega works a little bit better. Anyways.
Call him Delta Boy, though.
Probably.
I'm probably going to try to do it as a joke and then forget it by the end of this episode.
So anyways, the interesting thing about that is that the Nezare are fully aware of it, and it's actually sort of the crux of their plan for this week. So now we're into this week's episode, and it's Guy-Rail talking to the other Nezare, or Nezaregians, and he says, listen, here's the Jim Jam. Delta Mega does not move on its own. If we can take Red out of the equation, then Delta Mega is off the table. He's the
Or rather,
linchpin.
it is on the table, but on a different side of the table.
Right. We see this week's monster, which is Centipede Nezare, which been
I hate
equipped
him.
with... Yeah, I do. Very much. Here's the big problem with Centipede Nezare.
Is Centipede themed?
Yeah, is the base level is that I hate him because he is Centipede themed, and that's very bad. The reason
Somehow
that's
even worse than Moth Nezare.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, is that Moth Nezare was like a weird moth man. It's very difficult to make a centipede man. So what Centipede Nezare is it just looks like a big lumpy person with a giant centipede crawling on and twined around their whole body, and then also has replaced their head. So he's very bad. But he has been equipped with some sort of energy generator of indeterminate provenance, and they're going to send him to deal with this situation.
Right.
All right.
So, and this is what I was saying earlier, is that Guy Rail is like, hey, Dr. Hinelar, with your permission, I would like to put this plan in place, because I think we can do this thing to take over Delta Mega. Dr. Hinelar says, yes, cool. I'm definitely still in charge. So you go right ahead, Cynthia. Deal with this problem for me. So we cut back down to Earth, and in the computer lab, the 4 smart Mega Rangers are looking at a computer, and they're saying like, oh, okay, so Delta Mega has been like programmed specifically to respond to Kenta's voice, which I love, because it's this giant complex like computer system that has been programmed to respond to the only one of the 5 of them who has no idea how to otherwise interface with a complex computer system.
Maybe that's why. Maybe they needed Kenta's simplicity of like only using voice commands. Like if they gave it to Koichiro, he'd be like, no, let me get in on the programming. And they're like, don't touch the programming. Just tell it to punch guys. And Kenta's like, yes, I will. I'm into it.
Like it's programmed in binary, and that's what Kenta's like emotional state is. He's like yes or no, 1 or 0. This is all I've got.
I love it. So they're like, hey, here's the only problem. What if you couldn't call in because it's programmed to respond to your voice? And Kenta's like, it's okay. His heart would respond to me. Like, it's great. Like, me and Delta Mega, we're best friends.
He's talking about it like it's his childhood dog that has been his best friend for 10 years.
He's like, Delta Mega gets me on a level that none of you other clowns do. We are soul brothers. Me and Delta Mega forever. It's cool.
Okay,
then
so
we get a Nezare.
Dr. Kubota comes in. He's like, okay, I don't know what any of you people are talking about, but there is a monster attack right now. You've got to go respond.
Yes. So they run out.
There's Centipede. What's weird is that Centipede Nezare is there, but by the time that the Mega Rangers arrive, Centipede Nezare has like disappeared.
True, but who is there is, weirdly, Rhino Nezare.
From like episode 2.
Yeah, and so they're like, well, this guy's a clown, and they just blast him, and he just goes down immediately. But then they see Frog Nezare and Shrimp Nezare, and then Rhino gets back up. He's back again, and then we got like Bee Nezare, Moth Nezare. Like basically all of these monsters from early on in the season are back somehow. And they've clearly been revived with like 1 hit point.
Mm-hmm.
Like they take like 1 shot and they go back down, but then they just kind of keep popping back up.
Yeah, and we cut back up to like the Nezare HQ, and Shibalene is controlling them. She's like, okay, just keep going down, keep getting up, keep them busy. We just need you to interfere for a while longer. And as they are doing this, the Rangers are getting frustrated. They kind of don't know what to do. Like, these guys are going down quickly, but they keep getting, they get knocked down.
But they get up again.
Yeah, and it seems like nothing can ever keep them down, which is a problem. And so it becomes an even larger problem when they look off into the city and they see that Centipede Nezare is now giant-sized and just rampaging through the city.
Yeah, and they're like, well, listen, you just need to call Delta Mega, or call Galaxy Mega. And they're like, well, we can't. Yeah, we can't because we're busy. And they're like, obviously the solution, just call Delta Mega, who's autonomous. He can come down and he'll fight the giant while you guys handle these guys.
Right. Seems like a great idea if we, the audience, did not already know that this was the Nezare's plan.
Right. Dramatic irony. So they do that exact thing. And when they get there, what ends up happening is basically Guy Rail reveals, he's like, listen, Delta Mega is like controlled by signal effectively. So if we can just ramp up our signal on the same frequency, we will override iNet signal and we can then take over Delta Mega. And that is exactly what they do. Like that, it is perfect.
Yeah,
They do
it
exactly their
works.
plan.
Delta Mega, like we have a whole sequence where Delta Mega starts in space and he turns into a robot and he flies down to Earth and he stands there and then he gets zapped with a radio wave and he flies back up into space. And what's weird here is that like Centipede Nezare is still giant, right? And the other 5 like zombie Nezare are wiping the floor with the Mega Rangers because they just can't beat them. But as soon as they get control of Delta Mega, everyone just leaves. Like, guys, listen, I know that you can't just kill the heroes because this is episode 21. But like, I wish that they would have put in some sort of like explanation as to why they had to leave. Like, the thing that they were doing was like, we'll find out later that the way that these people keep reviving is based off of this energy generator that it has been equipped on Centipede Nezare. And if they had just taken 1 second to say, this thing is running out of energy, so we've got Delta Mega, and now it's time to go because they're about to defeat the like unending zombie horde of Rhino Nezare et al.
Yeah.
That would have made this episode work so much smoother.
You know, man, I feel like we got a little bit spoiled with Car Ranger. Car Ranger was really good about giving that like 5 to 15 seconds worth of like additional exposition that made everything make sense. And I think Megaranger has been good about avoiding the need for it. But clearly it's still there. It's kind of baked into the DNA. So
okay,
I should
Dave,
say,
Dave, give me 1 second. I've got to shift my notes here. I have been doing my notes on my iPad recently. I have a
because you got the
I got the Apple Pencil and I've got the iPad. And so with the most recent iPad OS update, you can just write with the Apple Pencil in the Note app, and it will turn your handwriting into, like, typed text. And it's really good. It's very interesting. The problem is, it's not perfect. And so, like, although it seems like it's supposed to take way less time, because you're just, like, scribbling on your screen and it's turning into, like, beautiful typed text, a lot of the words I'm trying to write are not words that this program recognizes and can turn into anything. And so I get like through act 1 of the show, and then I realize if I'm going to spend that much time going back and re-editing the notes so that they're legible later, it will take me a full hour to watch this half-hour show. So now I have just shifted from the text to handwriting to just me scribbling on my screen, and it's going to get more and more illegible as we go through, but I think I'll be fine.
I think you'll be okay. There is one thing I want to talk about that I forgot to about Delta Mega launching, which is when Delta Mega launches, he is surrounded by scaffolding, and then the scaffolding just kind of like off, and then Delta Mega launches. Here's the thing. They're in like outer space, and they just launched off like building-sized scaffolding. It just seems impossible that they're going to be able to get that back. And I'm getting the impression that we're going to see it launch every single time that we see Delta Mega launch. And that just seems financially irresponsible.
My thought on this, it's like, you know that old toy that's a horse? And it's on like a little stand, and you press the button on the bottom of the stand, and the horse collapses because you've released the tension on the string that's holding the horse together. That is kind of how I'm assuming that the scaffolding on the Delta Mega works. Is like it kind of comes apart, but it doesn't actually fly off into the distance. It just sort of like, it's just like a falling down wooden
So
horse.
it's on a tether, and then you just kind of grab it back. I dig it. That does make a lot of sense, and I feel like they have the technology. So anyways, the monsters are out. DM's flying, or Delta Mega is flying around terrorizing people. They're talking to Dr. Kubota from the computer lab. I do continue to find it wild that anytime they want to talk to Dr. Kubota, they have to like go to the school's computer lab.
I mean, it was 1997. How else were they going to get online?
I mean, I know, but they do have those. They have like risk communicators that theoretically should work.
Yeah,
like
that's
the implication. Right. And I can tell you, school buildings are not open all the time. You cannot get into a school building whenever you want. So I guess like. Just thankfully, the Nezare only attack when the Rangers are supposed to be in class.
I mean, okay,
or something.
Dave, you say that, but when we were in high school, when the building was closed, we knew how to get in.
Okay, yeah, but we did go to do kind of a weird, very loosey-goosey kind of high school.
Okay, that's very true. That's very true.
Anyways, so Kenta,
Man,
they're
this
like...
This has got to be so bad for iNet's PR. Because there's a brand new robot that they made last week. It's great. It's killing a crocodile. It's killing
Everybody
a
loves
building-sized
it.
crocodile. This week, that same robot is just wandering around Tokyo, destroying apartment buildings with lasers. That's not
With Gatling
good for
hands.
iNet or for
It
the
is
apartment
not a good look.
buildings.
So they're talking to Dr. Kubota, and Dr. Kubota's like, listen, we have a problem. Well, I think Dr. Kubota is very aware of this problem, and he's like, I don't think we can get this thing back. Our only option is going to be to destroy Delta Mega. Kenta flips. He's like, this cannot happen. Hates this idea. He's like, I'm out. So he just like angry kid runs away.
Also, speaking of angry kid reactions, his take on this is not being mad that the Nezare have outsmarted them, not being mad that the city is being destroyed. He's like, Delta Mega was programmed to respond to my voice. My voice. That means that if the Nezare is able to control him now, that he is resonating more with their voice than with my voice, and that hurts me personally. And I'm gonna sulk about it and run off like a weird idiot.
Yeah, well, where he runs off to is to go find Delta Mega. And he like, and then I should say, Koichiro even says like, dude, Delta Mega is just a robot. He's only responding to like signals and programming.
Yeah. Kubota says the same thing. He's like, yeah, Koichiro is right. It is a robot. It doesn't have a heart. Like, it's not a person. Don't think about it that way, please.
And Kenta's like, I will think about it that way. Thank you very much. You guys are both jerks. And all I need to do is make my voice stronger so that it can hear me. So
I do have it written in my notes after he says, I need to make my voice stronger. I have it in my notes. I'm so mad that this is going to work. And I want to revisit that later in the episode. I just want to seed that here.
Okay, I got you. Because I didn't put it in my notes, but I did have that same thought. So he runs out, he sees Delta Mega, he's about to get the Gatling hands, but he yells into Battle Riser, and there's a brief pause. He does manage to like, something is happening.
Delta
it's not
Mega's
exactly
attention.
clear what. Yeah, now he does then also get the Gatling hands.
Yeah, and that's not as good. He's standing in this alleyway, and Delta Mega stops, and he turns to him, and Kent is like, yes, my voice is getting through. And then Delta Mega just points the Gatling fingers and just shoots lasers and explodes the entire alley. Now, Kenta is not immediately incinerated, which either means that this is a show for children who is not going to immediately incinerate one of the main characters, which is a valid point. But if you were going to take a different reading on it, you could say that maybe Kenta's voice actually is getting through to Delta Mega, and he's like, I'm going to shoot towards you, but not at you, really? I don't know if this is actually valid in the reading of the episode, but I don't know. I just wanted to mention it.
No, I can hear what you're saying. The vibe I got from it is that he is, because it's all signal, right? And so right now the only signal he's getting is from the Nezare, but when he gets that input from Kenta, there is at least a there's a disruption, you know. So anyways, Kubota reiterates, he's like, we've just got to use Galaxy Mega to destroy Delta Mega. Kubota's still super angry about it. The other Rangers get in. Red Henshins runs directly into the line of fire. They pad the episode out a little bit. We get a shot of everybody henshining. Right, they need to fill this script out a little. Yeah. Red, still reluctant, but he's like, all right, man, we got to do something. We got to do something about this. So they're in Galaxy Mega, and they're trying to not attack. Like, Red won't attack. He's playing kind of a defensive game, but he's like, I really don't want to do this. Now we shift to the inside of Galaxy Mega.
Dave, I'm sorry. There's one bit that I want to make sure we don't gloss over.
Oh, please.
I love it. He's trying... Kenta in the cockpit of Galaxy Mega is still trying to talk to Delta Mega. And he's like, please, stop. And for a moment, Delta Mega stops. And he's like, yes, I've gotten through to you. We can be friends again. Please, Delta Mega, let's shake on it. And Galaxy Mega puts out its hand.
Oh, this is
Delta
awesome.
Mega puts out its hand. But Delta Mega's hand, all of the fingers are Gatling gun lasers. And so there's a moment where, like, he goes in for the handshake, but instead of getting a handshake, gets a face full of, like, Gatling gun finger lasers. And it's extremely funny. I don't know if it's meant to be funny, but it absolutely is.
I think you could read it either way. So we go to the inside of Galaxy Mega, and Shogo, who we met last episode, who is the chief engineer, runs in. He's like, I have another way. I have another way out of this. And Kubota's like, no, it's too dangerous. And Kenta hears this. He's like, whatever it is, I don't even care. I don't even know what the plan is. I don't care that it's dangerous. If it's going to save Delta Mega, let me try.
I was really hoping
Dr.
that he
Kubota
would
says,
say, I don't care what it is, I trust Shogo, because they bonded in the last episode. He doesn't say it, but I'm going to assume
he does
that's
not
subtext.
say that. Yeah, I am not going to assume that subtext. I just assume that that Kenta is down to clown.
I mean, that's also true.
Yeah, so Kubota says, listen, I'm not going to do that. There are 100 people that are like live on Galaxy Mega, and they could all die. I refuse to authorize this. Shogo says, it's cool. We all agree. And everybody that works on INET rushes in. Apparently in the last 30 seconds, they have held a poll, gotten a unanimous consent to risk everyone's life on the hope that the Rangers can pull this off and save Delta Mega.
Okay, Dave, I got a thought on this. Because they say there's 100 people on board, but there are not 100 people who crowd into the control center that lives in probably the chest of Galaxy Mega. And you know who, and specifically, now normally I would say like, well, whatever, they're only going to have so many extras in the episode. But Tall Steve isn't here. Like, I looked.
Oh my goodness, you're right.
Tall Steve does not show up with the crowd that says, yes, please risk all of our lives. So I have to assume that there's like, of the 100 people on board, Shogo went around to like 30 of them that he knew he could like count on to be on board with this really stupid plan. He's like, I'm not going to talk to Tall Steve. Tall Steve knows way too much about how dangerous this is.
Yeah, he is dramatically too practical for this.
Anyway, but all of the people who are in the room say, yes, please risk our lives for this very dangerous plan. Let's do it. Dr. Kubota thanks them all. It's very heartfelt. Dr. Kubota rules. We haven't talked a ton about him in the episode, but man, Dr. Kubota is very good, and very good in this episode specifically.
Yeah, he really is. It's very, very awesome. And so they do, and he's like, activate Galaxy Fusion. This whole time, Galaxy Mega is just being absolutely blasted by Delta Mega.
Sure. Assumedly, Tall Steve is somewhere down in the bowels of the ship trying to keep the fires from spreading.
Yeah, so how you activate, you push a button, and then it it just flips over the console in front of Kenta, and then he takes off Battle Riser and kind of like puts it into the console in a particular way, and this activates the fusion. And they're like, if this doesn't work, we're all going to die, and Galaxy Mega will be under the Nezare's control. And I'm like, all right, see, now what you've done is you put too many eggs in this basket. You put too many eggs in this basket, so even if I didn't automatically know how well this was going to turn out, now I definitely know how it's going to turn out. I feel like they should have kept the stakes slightly lower, and then the tension would have been a little bit better. Anyways... And then basically we get a scene where we get the scene in the video game where like everybody has to push their button as fast as you can, and like the meter is kind of going up and down based on who's pressing their button faster, and the Rangers do in fact press their button faster, and then they do the fusion. Now, it's a very good fusion. Here's why.
Extremely good.
It's extremely cool. Normally, what we've seen in the past when you get a fusion is like it kind of gets like stacked on, like, you know, you wear the other robot as like football pads effectively. This is not that. Basically, Delta Mega breaks into a bunch of pieces and is like extra boots and extra glove and an extra chest piece. It's like Delta Mega turns into armor for Galaxy Mega. It just is super rad. It looks extremely good.
And what's especially good about it is that like Delta Mega still is kind of like not quite in sync with Galaxy Mega. So like the boots go on fine, the helmet goes on fine, the shoulder pads go on fine. But there's like this chest piece where like the torso of Delta Mega becomes this like chest piece for Galaxy Mega, and it tries to attach. By the way, they have flown up into space to do all of this.
Yeah, if they have to fly up into space every time, it's going to seem really inefficient.
Yeah, it's quick transport. We've seen it before. But the chest piece like isn't fitting on. It's like trying to go on and like lock into the various sockets or whatever, but it's like bouncing off, and there are sparks flying everywhere, and it's not working, and they're worried that the whole thing is just going to shake apart and explode. And then after a few different times, like it finally locks in, and then we are standing there and we see Super Galaxy Mega. And it's very good. It's basically Galaxy Mega with an extra hat and boots and gloves and shoulder cannons.
Yeah, it just is real rad, man.
And it flies back to Earth, and it destroys Centipede Nezare. I mean, it takes a few seconds, but not that many seconds.
Yeah, now, I will say it destroys Centipede Nezare with an unexpected finishing special move. It does have Gatling like the Gatling lasers become like Gatling shoulder pads, Gatling pauldron, I guess. However, its super move is Super Galaxy Knuckles, and it's just a double rocket fist, which is cool, but cool. Unexpected.
It was unexpected until I remembered that the whole thing is controlled by the Battle Riser, and the Battle Riser is a thing that sits on Mega Red's wrist and makes him punch super good. So he just, like, I think previously he had only hit numbers 1 and 2 on the Battle Riser.
Maybe this is...
And this is number 3. Number 3 is Super Galaxy Knuckle, and it just shoots these two fists, which I'm sure as a toy was very fun.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense.
And that's it. I mean, there's a bit where the other monsters are also trying to fight him, and they keep falling down and getting back up. But, like, really, this fight is kind of open and shut.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing of it. So
and they're all cheering, and everyone on board is cheering. Like, all this, the crew is cheering, and then the Mega Rangers are cheering. And Kenta says, "This victory does not just belong to us; it also belongs to everyone who built this incredible system." It's very nice.
Thank you, Kenta. That was a great line.
And there's right at the end, you think that we're about to throw to credits, and then we get this other weird bit with Gyral, who has come down to Earth and is standing, like, as the light of the sunset is hitting him. He's like, "You don't actually know my true power. The next time we face off, I will destroy you myself." And then the episode ends. But then you think that my notes are going to end, but they don't actually, because there's another line in them about the ending of this episode. Dave, did you watch the end credits of this episode?
No, I generally do not watch the end credits because it's usually like a preview for the next week.
It was different end credits. This
What?
episode, I'm guessing, must have occurred during some sort of, like, festival, like some sort of holiday, because the end credits of this episode are like a full song and dance routine of, like, the Rangers preparing and, like, enjoying some sort of Japanese festival where there's, like, drums and they're dancing and they're all wearing, like, traditional garb.
What? Well, now I'm going to go check it out
if you
again.
normally skip the credits, check out the credits for this one. It's like a weird, fun thing. I don't anticipate it being like the new end credit sequence, but it was fun this week. And that, Dave, finally, is the end of the episode. But of course, as you know, it's not the end of our episode, because first we need to determine where Centipede Nezare fares in the Creature Royale. I mean, probably not great, right?
Well, okay. He's got a very, very bad, but in a sense, cool and unique look. He does have a neat power. Like, his plan is very cool. This is a, like resurrect a bunch of old monsters and use them as zombie foot soldiers while you try to take over the Ranger's new secret giant robot. That's a pretty rad plan.
Yeah, but the Centipede Nezare himself, I don't actually think we ever described this. At some point early in the episode, they say that he has been equipped with an energy generator, and the energy generator is the thing that is able to, like, keep bringing back the other dead Nezare monsters. And so when they blow him up, that is, like, the source of the energy, and that sort of stops the cycle. But, like, he himself is not doing it.
True, but I will point out that like, superpowered dancing cockroach from last season, I can't remember his name all of a sudden, but, he was sort of an equipment-based monster, right? That wasn't all him.
That's true. I'm just saying that this is definitely the worst centipede that we've seen. Because the best centipede that we've seen, of course, is Omikade, the football centipede that was also a secret Santa Claus. And that's number 52 on the list. So it's definitely under that.
He's not definitely under that, no question. So as I'm going down...
Okay, so the cockroach that you were talking about from the previous season. Man, is there a cockroach? How many cockroaches have we seen? Because adhesive cockroach is number 169.
There's adhesive cockroach. Well, we're 3 for 6 seasons. So...
Too many.
A surprising,
I just gotta say, Dave,
number, I guess, is what I would say.
That's always the problem with cockroaches, is there's too many. Okay, Dave. So I think that a good comparison point is, do you remember in Kakuranger the episode with Tengu?
Yeah, I mostly remember his look more than anything.
Well, if you don't remember the Tengu episode was like, he came back, like, he showed up and he brought back a bunch of other monsters that had been resurrected via cybernetics. Now, that was actually part of Dr. Yagame's plotline, but, like, the episode was a Tengu episode. Like, he was sort of like the front, the leader of the resurrected dudes, which is kind of similar, right? Like, Centipede Nezare didn't create the energy regeneration device, and he was just sort of like there to deal with something that Guy Rail had made, or Shibalina had made. I don't recall exactly. I think that Tengu is slightly cooler because when he brought back the old monsters, they were cyborgs, and that's fun.
Yeah. That is definitely better. So I would say better than Vacuum Dimension. I do like him better than Land Zazoon and Marine Zaboom and Zaboomafoom and everybody, because they were just monsters. I feel like Tengu was part of at least a pretty cool plan. So I would say...
Yeah. So here's okay.
Now I'm gonna back that up. I don't like him as much as all three of them put together. So I would say,
okay. And Izuki Arai is number 142, and I feel like we keep not. I feel like Izuki Arai keeps moving further and further down the list, where actually he was pretty good.
Yeah, so I would say...
The Bean Washer from Kaku Ranger. He pretended to be a policeman, and he had like a weird magic dungeon under his police station.
I know who he is. Underneath him actually is Mushroom Nezare, and I really liked Mushroom Nezare too. So, okay, I do like him. I like him better than PP. I don't know. PP Rampa turned a 1 into a rocket.
That's true.
That is true. I do definitely like him better than...
You like him better than Bara Boxer?
I do like him better than Bara Missler. Better than Bara Missler.
But not quite as well as Bara Mammoth?
Not quite as well as Bara Mammoth. I actually kind of liked Bara Mammoth.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
So here he is. New spot number 147, Centipede Nezare.
You know what's interesting about that is that Centipede Nezare might be underneath all of the Nezare monsters that he resurrected in this episode.
That's a good point.
Like, he's definitely underneath Bee Nezare. He's definitely underneath Poison Moth Nezare. He's just a few spots lower than Shrimp Nezare. I'm not going to go through the entire list to find them all, because that would be very time-consuming and no one would like it. But I think it's funny to think about. Anyway, Dave, that is going to do it for another episode of The Spy Who Loved Megaranger. Before we finish up here, I'd like to remind you all you can email the show at supersentaibrothers@gmail.com. You want to get any updates on future episodes or check out the things that we are talking about on Twitter, we are at Super Sentai Bros. If you like the show, please remember that shining in the iTunes review section, there are 5 stars. Rate, review, subscribe on iTunes. That's what's going to help new people find the show. Or just tell a friend. That's probably more effective and more personal. And we can all afford to be a little more personal these days. The Super Sentai Brothers are a production of Retrograde Orbit Radio. To listen to all of the other great Retrograde Orbit Radio shows, you can find us all at retrogradeorbitradio.com. Once again, we are the Super Sentai Brothers. I'm Matt.
I'm Dave.
And we'll see you next week for the greatest show on Earth.